3,000 official homeless people in all of Japan, and 15,000 people sleeping in internet cafes in Tokyo alone. Something doesn't add up, and the truth is starker than you think. Japan wants the world to believe that they have done the impossible, that they have solved homelessness. While the American cities are drowning in tent camps, Japan has just 0.003% of population on the streets. That's lower than Switzerland, lower than Norway, and lower than anywhere in the world. Politicians love bragging about it, and the media celebrates it. But it seems all fake. To understand Japan's homeless crisis, we need to go back to the 1990s when everything fell apart. Japan's economic bubble burst like a balloon. Stock markets crashed by 39%, real estate collapsed overnight, and the country that was supposed to overtake America economically suddenly couldn't pay its bills. This wasn't just a recession, this was an economic devastation. The GDP had plummeted, and the companies that had guaranteed lifetime employment started mass layoffs. Millions of people lost everything they had worked their entire lives for. The government called it the lost decade. But it's actually much worse because the 2008 financial crisis hit Japan again, and its economy has been stagnant for over 30 years now. The entire generation got thrown away: middle aged construction workers, factory employees, and office workers. People who had permanent jobs with benefits suddenly found themselves with nothing. They became what we know them as Japan's lost generation. And by 2023, 25,000 people were sleeping on Japan's streets. 10 cities appeared in Tokyo's parks, and the problem was impossible to ignore. The homeless population formed advocacy groups and held protests outside government building. The pressure kept building throughout the late 1990s and the early 2000s as the homeless camps became more visible in central Tokyo. Finally, in 2002, the government cracked under pressure. They passed the Homeless Self Support Act, Japan's first comprehensive attempt to address the crisis, and they got serious about it because the government created self help support centers to help people find employment. They built rehabilitation facilities and temporary housing. From the year 1998 to 2010, Tokyo increased housing facilities for homeless people by 6 times. And during the pandemic, when the internet cafes shut down, the government provided several thousand hotel rooms during the emergencies. Without this, the visible homelessness would have been spiked dramatically. These efforts were real and helped many people, and the numbers seem to have proven success. The visible homelessness dropped significantly. While the government was building shelters with one hand, it made it impossible to survive as homeless on the streets with the other. First came the legal pressure. Begging became illegal, and parks locked their gates at night. City planners redesigned the benches with metal spikes and awkward angles, making it painful to lie down. But the legal pressure was nothing compared to the social pressure. In Japanese culture, becoming homeless means you have fundamentally failed as a human being. The shame is so crushing that families disown relatives rather to be associated with their failure. This is especially brutal for men who make up to 90% of Japan's homeless population. Japanese society expects men to be self reliant providers, so homelessness represents ultimate personal failure. The stigma is so powerful that people would choose death over being seen sleeping on the streets. Society treats homeless people like they don't exist, and the homeless internalize this invisibility as preferable to public humiliation. Today, 22 million people in Japan, nearly one third of the workforce, are stuck in temporary jobs that barely pay survival wages. The temporary staffing industry added 90,000 minimum wage jobs with no benefits just last year. These people work full time but can't afford apartments because landlords require permanent employment contracts and months of rent up front. So every night, 15,000 people in Tokyo alone pay $25 to sleep in internet cafe booths barely larger than coffins. Picture this: you work at a convenience store, shower every morning, and look like everyone else on the train. But when your shift ends, you don't go home. You walk to a 24-hour internet cafe, rent a tiny booth with a reclining chair, and try to sleep sitting up. The cafes have turned desperation into profit. Basic booth rental costs nearly $25. If you need a shower, extra $5. Clean underwear, $3 more. and instant ramen another $2. They have created commercial homeless shelters where the homeless pay premium prices for their invisibility. Now these people are trapped in vicious cycle. You can't get a good job without a permanent address and you can't rent an apartment without a stable income. So they pay $25 nightly and are never able to save enough to escape. The system perfectly hides the problem. The government doesn't count them as homeless because they are not on the street. The society doesn't see them as homeless because they look professional. They don't even consider themselves homeless because the shame would be unbearable. Want to know how harsh this is? During the Typhoon Hagibis, one of the Japan's worst storms, emergency shelters turned away homeless people because they didn't have registered addresses. People were denied disaster relief for being homeless. Japan's poverty rate is higher than America's, which is nearly 15% compared to 12% of the USA. But you'd never know walking through Tokyo because all the poor people are forced into hiding. Japan didn't solve homelessness, they perfected making it invisible. They created a system where homeless people pay for their own hiding places, where businesses profit from desperation, where society ignores suffering without guilt. The government programs genuinely help some people, and those facilities and job programs were real, but they solved visibility, not the housing crisis. They got people off the streets without fixing the economic system creating homelessness. Meanwhile, they maintained impressive statistics by not counting people who didn't fit in their narrow definition. And the other countries look at Japan's low numbers and want to copy their success. But they are not learning to end homelessness, they are learning to hide it. Japan showed the world you don't need to solve social problems, just make them invisible. You don't need to help people, you just need to make sure nobody sees their pain. So the next time someone says Japan solved homelessness, remember the 15,000 people in Tokyo are sleeping in internet cafes tonight, paying $25 for the privilege of being invisible. Subscribe and help me dig deeper because sometimes the most impressive statistics tell the most dangerous lies.